Now, this may seem quite weird, seeing as I'm in a huge theatre with a whole load of people underneath my name in font size 6,000, but actually, no, I do this because I enjoy telling jokes, and after the show, I'm quite happy to be normal. I don't want to be anyone different. Seriously, I've only ever signed 5 autographs in 10 years of doing stand-up, and I was quite pleased about this, because every time I have, I've always felt quite weird. Firstly, I thought they were taking the piss. And secondly, part of me thought, have they nicked my checkbook? Which, to be fair, if someone had actually stolen your checkbook and then had the balls to come up to you and go, can I have your autograph? Part of me would just go, yes, help yourself, you know. Because sometimes people put so much effort into being devious, I feel you have to reward it, you know? Because it involves some form of conviction and aptitude. Look, I'll explain what I mean by this. Earlier on this year, I had my MP3 player stolen off me on a train. Now, first thing to point out here, it was an MP3 player, not an iPod. Okay, I'm not one of these people who subscribes to this Apple hype. Everything's amazing at Apple. Oh, amazing design. Oh, the iPod, the iMac, the iBook. No, the iMac, Stephen, it's amazing. You just unpack it, you plug it in, you switch it on, the software's pre-installed, it's ready to go. Yes, which means you learn nothing about fucking computers, right? The whole idea about computers is you use them, you break them, you try to fix them, and if you don't, you take them to PC World, where they find your special directory, and that's when the fun starts, okay? The iPhone's just come out. I've got people phoning me up. Oh, Stephen, I've got an iPhone. I'm talking to you on it now. It's amazing. It's the future of communication. No, it's not. You can't install software. It's locked to one network. You cannot remove the battery. You cannot remove the battery. I'm sorry, but if Apple made cars, they'd have one control to do everything, and the bonnet would be welded shut. Oh, but Stephen, the new Shuffle is just amazing. You never know what's coming next. Bang! Didn't expect that, did you? So, I had my MP3 player nicked off me on a train. And when I say train as well, I have to qualify this. This was the 4 a.m. train from Victoria to Brighton. Now, has anybody here ever got this train? Yes, it's a very special train, isn't it? It's a train where two worlds who would never normally meet collide. All the pissheads who were too wasted to catch the 1 a.m. train, and all the business folk who think that 4 a.m. is a realistic time to start the working day. Yes, you're walking through the carriage, it's so surreal. In one ear you can hear, yeah, phone Tokyo now, speak to them, they haven't gone into lunch, they'll be much more receptive to your ideas. Okay, bye. And in the other ear, I pissed in my hair, right? Two groups of people who should never mix. So normally what I do is I go and find the quietest corner of the quietest carriage. I sit down, I put my MP3 player on, I listen to some music and I fall asleep. And when I wake in Brighton, I toddle off, get a taxi and go home. But on this one occasion, I couldn't. Because when I woke up in Brighton, my headphones were on. And when I followed the cable down, all I found was a plug. Now, had someone have pulled that out while we were travelling, the change in noise would have made me wake up immediately. So the guy who nicked it must have sat next to me, slowly turning the volume down. Now, I miss my MP3 player, but there's a large part of me that just goes, well done. Well done, you've earned yourself an MP3 player. Because I was never paranoid enough to think that someone would go through all that work. It sounds like a huge amount of work, you know, because I have what I call realistic paranoia. I think it's wrong to say you're paranoid to someone. Paranoia is an analogue trait. There are various levels, and at my level, it is realistic. You know, and I think I live longer for this. This means I look twice before I cross the road. You know, I never eat prawns more than 100 miles from the coast. Yeah. Oh, and when I go to London, I always get the shallow tubes. Now, some of you know exactly what I'm talking about, and you're not saying anything. And I know it's fair, because you may have noticed after July the 7th, the majority of the deaths after the bombings happened on the deep tubes. The shallow tubes got away relatively unscathed. Now, I'm not so paranoid that I'll never get on a tube again. But when I do, I want to reduce the chances. So now I get on the shallow tubes, which means I'm not getting the Victoria line, I'm getting the Circle line, which I'm not really enjoying. It's quite slow, it's quite clunky, and I sit there looking at the little map opposite, which shows me there's only one stop on the Circle line with wheelchair access, which does beg the question, where the fuck are they going? I mean, what, is it a day out? I went clockwise, I went anti-clockwise, I've had a lovely day. And it's easy to get hugely paranoid, because one of the upshots, ladies and gentlemen, of accepting the abuse that someone throws at you, like what happened to me at Tranmere, is that you start to believe what they say. And then you'll start to believe what you hear on the radio, what you read in the press, what you see on the TV. That's when you start going mad. Because the press is no longer about informing people, it is about imparting agendas. Seriously, right? And I know it's considered kind of the mode de rigueur nowadays to give the right-wing press a bit of a kicking, you know, and I will say in their defence, the Express has a phenomenal puzzle page, and, you know, the Mail, unparalleled Formula One coverage, right? But when it comes to political agendas, oh my word, I want to be a racist. Don't worry, we'll show you how. It just surprises me how they do it, because, I mean, very clever. They've worked it through the back door, haven't they? About 7 years ago, they started their campaign against the horror of bogus asylum seekers. Now, what is a bogus asylum seeker? This is someone who's looking for help, but doesn't deserve it. And you know what? A lot of my right-minded friends would be thinking, you know what? They've got a point. I'm on their side there. Yeah, bogus asylum seekers, what, they don't need help and they're asking for it? Well, you're right to highlight this problem. And they were probably on their side. But after a few years, it became asylum seekers. Now, for me, that's someone who's looking for help. Now, in a British way, I feel that we should give that help. But by then, it was anyone who was an asylum seeker, very angry, don't like them. And then they started realising that not everybody was coming here looking for help. So then it became illegal immigrants. That's a classic cover from the Express. Diana and immigrants in the same front cover. They took a week off to wank themselves blind. They were very pleased with that. And then this year, they've dropped the illegal. They now use the word immigrants. Now that's just someone from overseas. This is getting progressively more racist. What's next? Fuzzy wuzzies? People who come back from holiday? Wankers, you know? What's wrong? France not good enough for you? Bugger off! And you know what, actually? If I was a capitalist, I couldn't see the problem. Immigrants are the future. Seriously, Britain's economy is based on a constantly increasing population. And last year, for the first time in history, it went up more through immigration than childbirth. Because we're suffering massively plummeting birth rates. Seriously, it is the future. So when someone in the future gets on at you about bloody foreigners and you tell them to get fucked, that's not abuse. That's a realistic solution to the problem.